Okay, we are in Yakov, so please subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, hit the bell for notifications of new classes. Thank you so much. Okay, here we go. We are in Yakov, like I said. We're in Gemara Shabbat, page 41a1. And we're going to come into a very interesting part of a conversation here. We're walking into a middle. So it says, I'm a Rav Zera. You'll see what I'm talking about. Rav Zera said, Ana chazite Rabbi Abahu. I observed Rabbi Abahu, she'eniach yadav keneged panav shalmata. Sorry. I observed Rabbi Abahu when bathing in a river to place his head over, and this is a nice way of saying the lower regions, his lower face. In other words, he covered up his private parts. Okay? And so, v'lo yadana inaga ilonaga. And I don't know whether he touched the male member or not. Notice he went, obviously he's going in nude to the river to wash, or whatever he's going to do. So he covers his lower parts, his private parts with his hands. And Rashi says, why did he do this? He did it out of modesty. Okay?
This doesn't say anything about a river.
No, that's the Gemara. I mean, that's the commentaries telling me that. The commentaries are telling me that he went to a river.
I see words here, but I can't tell me what I don't know what the story is they're telling, but it's not a river in here.
He says, I saw him put his hands opposite his lower regions. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Goes up from Babylon to Palestine.
No, wait, so stop there. Is what happened was he wanted. Rashi says, Kishahaya rochetz. He wanted to wash himself. In other words, he wanted to bathe. So what's he doing? When he goes into the river, that's where they would bathe. Okay, so that's when he covered himself up, his private parts, because of sniut, because of modesty. That's what. So that's when you need the old tradition, fill in the story. So that's what's going on. Fine. And then, but he says, I don't know whether he touched the male member or not. And what's the problem? So he says, Pshita, the Gemara says, what are we talking about? It's obvious to Lo Naga. It's obviously he didn't touch his private parts. Why do we know? Why is it so obvious? To Tanya, because we learned in the Braita, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Rabbi Eliezer said, Kol ha'ochez ba'ama. Anybody who holds his male member, umashtin, and while he's urinating, ki'ilu mevi mabul la'olam. It's as if he brought a flood to the world. Now, so you got the flood, as in the famous the flood that destroyed the world. So if he holds his member while he's urinating, it's as if he did it. So therefore, obviously, he didn't touch his member when he was covering him up from modesty to walk into the water. And what's the problem here? He says, what's the problem with touching it? So touching the male member, the article explains that touching the male member can arouse the person and ultimately lead to a seminal emission. Emitting semen in vain was a grave sin of the generation of the flood and led to their destruction, as the Torah says, Ki hishchi kol basar dako hala'arts. All the flesh had perverted its way upon the earth, and the rabbis had taken that to mean that they had seminal emission. Okay, and that's one of the things that destroyed the world. That wasn't the only thing that destroyed the world. The reason I sent in all, just so we should get this out, what destroyed the world was stealing from each other.
That probably has more to do with it, really.
What?
Stealing.
Why?
You're not creating a flood that way.
No. That's what caused. That's why Hashem said, "I'm going to destroy the world," because people were stealing from each other. Why? Now there's three sins we were doing. By the way, again, you were doing avodah zarah. They were doing idolatry. They were doing sexual sins. It could have been the seminal emission, but it says they were stealing from each other. That's what sealed the deal. Why? Because you don't need a Torah to tell me I shouldn't steal from you. You need a Torah to tell me I shouldn't pray to idols. You need a Torah for that, because it's very hard to think, well, what's wrong with praying to the sun? There's only a servant of God. I'm praying to a servant of the king. Nothing wrong with that, right? We show deference to our senators, well, assuming that the president is the king. But in that sort of a model, we show deference to those officers. So why wouldn't you want to show deference to the malachim or something else? Why wouldn't you get involved in that? Okay, so it's not hard to rationalize why people would pray to idols. It's not hard. And then when it comes to sexual sins, sex makes the world go round. Okay, that's what it is. So again, it's not hard to understand why we would do that. And that it's a natural desire. But when it comes to, and therefore the Torah has to come and say, this is not correct. When it comes to stealing, I don't need a Torah to tell me I shouldn't steal. That's just common sense. If it's yours and I take it from you, well, I've taken something from you. I wouldn't want you to do it to me, so why would I want to do it to you? Mm-hmm. So that's common sense, and Hashem said, because of that I'm bringing the flood. Now, that's again all. We'll do deference to what the Gemara is saying here. That's what sealed the deal, but the other things also attributed to it. So they're saying, so they learned that anybody who holds his member while he's going to the bathroom is as if he brought the flood to the world. So therefore, it's impossible. The Gemara says that Rabbi Abahu touched his member, and therefore he discovered it. And that was out of modesty. Okay, fine. So then, Abaya Amar, Abaya said, Asuya kivoleshet, sorry. Rabbi's case is treated as the same principle as the governing case of a troop of marauding soldiers. We have a bunch of soldiers who were coming in from an invading army. What happens? It's now we learned. When a troop of marauding soldiers enters the city and enters the Jew's home, b'sha'at shalom, if it's peacetime, chaviyot ptuchot asurot strumot mitorot. So if one of the open barrels of the wine, he had an open barrel and it was wine, so those become prohibited. While if it's a sealed barrel of wine, you can still use it. What's going on there, right? So in those days, wine, on all days, even today, if I have a wine in a barrel, is the wine cooked or uncooked?
Oh, it's probably uncooked.
It's uncooked wine, right? It's raw wine.
Who cooks it?
Pasteurized. What we call pasteurized wine. Okay. So what happened was, people normally, if you want the good wine, to this very day, what kind of wine do you get? Uncooked wine. The best wine is uncooked wine. When you pasteurize it, when you cook it, you ruin it.
What's the pasteur? They say it's supposed to to take the germs out or something, or kill the germs.
I don't know why they would do it.
That's what we do with milk, right?
Again, that's a relatively new thing that we do, but again, good wine is uncooked.
Is it a flavor thing or a strength thing?
Since I don't like wine, so for me it doesn't. It's like beer. What?
Real wine is never pasteurized.
So I'm saying, it kills the taste? Does it kill the taste?
It doesn't age anymore. It
okay.
levels it out.
So
why do we pasteurize?
So it kills the taste. I'll explain why we do it. I'm gonna get there. Don't run ahead of me, okay?
Does unpasteurized wine, once it's bottled and corked, does it continue to age?
Yeah.
Unpasteurized ages in the bottle.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so once it's pasteurized and
It
corked,
stops.
Whereas hard liquor doesn't age in the bottle.
Okay.
Wine ages in the bottle.
Okay. So what happened is, I guess it ruins the taste. Okay. So again, good wine is that which is put in the bottle, sealed up, and uncooked. So what happens is they used to use that in the service for the non-Jews as well as us, for that matter. We used to use uncooked wine in our service for libations. Okay. What happens is, if this non-Jewish person would come, since stam machshava is le'avodazara, the normal thought from a non-Jew would be to serve his gods. That's what we say, stam machshava le'avodazara. Okay, their regular thought is to serve the Avodah Zarah. So therefore, when they would touch the wine, they would dedicate that particular wine for their god. And that's what we have Yayin Nesach. What we call Yayin Nesach, the wine that is dedicated for their gods. Well, if they do, now they can touch any wine and make it that. So when they would go, if the barrel was open in the Jew's home, then the assumption was that the non-Jew is going to touch the wine, make it holy for his God, and that would make it forbidden for us to use. Okay? If the barrel is closed, on the other hand, locked, sealed, we're not going to assume that the non-Jew is going to stick his hand, break the seal, stick his hand in there, dedicate it, and reseal it. We're not assuming that. Okay? If he breaks it, he breaks it. But we're not assuming he's going to make it look like it was before. So we say if it is sealed, then it's not a problem. Which, by the way, translates today. We don't have Yain Nesech today, but we have Stam Yenim. So it's, again, if a non-Jew touches our uncooked wines, so we can't use it, okay? Which is why most of the wines we have today are what we call Yain Mavushal, pasteurized wines. That's why most people will have that. But if they don't, so they have to be very careful. And they can't let anybody serve it, except for somebody who's Shomer Shabbos. You hear what I'm saying?
It's even not even
to this very day. Even if somebody's on Shomer Shabbos, they can't pour it either. Yeah. So it has to be somebody who's Shomer Shabbat. So it's not just against the non-Jew, now it's against the person who's not keeping Shabbos. And that, again, because once you have uncooked wine, so that is what the whole thing started from. And so anything can ruin it. It won't become Yayin Nesech anymore, because we no longer have a Avodah Zarah like that, idolatry like that.
And actual idols, you mean?
Yeah, people don't. We don't. The truth is, if I go to Africa, you may have the problem. But here in America, we don't have the problem. Okay, and then, by the way, even there, the Gemara says that when it comes to the non-Jews today, that is minhag avotehem b'yidehem, that the non-Jews really don't even believe in idolatry, but it's because it's the custom of their fathers they inherited. That's what it really is. So. The non-Jews and by the way, this was said in the Talmudic times. So, Kol V'chomer, where we are today, or the most of where we are today, it said in the Talmudic times that the non-Jews aren't idolaters anymore. They're keeping the minhag. In other words, you have some people who are really religious, right? They're really religious folk. Okay, they know all the minhagim, they know everything that's going on. But most people aren't like that. If you go to most people today, and I did this, by the way, when I was in Maine. I had to pass the Roman Catholic Church on the way to my synagogue, and so there was something going on this Sunday. I don't know what it was. It was one of the holidays, and they're all coming in the best clothes. So you knew something was going on. It wasn't a wedding, and I said to the people, "So what's the holiday today?" And they gave me the name of the holiday. Fine. I forget what it was. And I said, "So what's it about?" Well, I don't know. I don't know. I said, "What do you mean you don't know? You're going. So, how do you don't know?" "I know you have to come, so you go." My wife told me I have to go. The kids have to go. Okay. So it was the strangest thing to me that you're going just by rote. And you don't know why you're doing it. And that's when this Gemara came to me that said, it's minhagim for that. They have a minhag. Okay, why do you put a Christmas tree up? Because they do. You realize it's a pagan holiday. You realize it's a pagan thing to do. And, don't confuse with the facts. But that's, or the wreath. And all these are pagan things that the church, that Christianity brought in somehow and put into the system. But that's what I say. When the Gemara said, that minhag avotehem b'yadeim, that the custom of their fathers is in their hands, and therefore they're really not stuck into it. And Kol V'chomer, all the more so today. So, but that's what's going on with these soldiers. Since they could have touched it, and they could have made it Yayin Nesech, they would have just had to put their hand in it. So they would have made it one for their idol. So that's why we couldn't use it. But that's, again, only if it was unsealed. Once it's sealed, we don't have that question. Okay. So now, yeah. sealing.
Yeah.
You put the
Actual
clay
wax-
over it or
a
something.
wax seal?
Do you mean whether it was airtight?
No, I mean, if it was relatively easy, then not you could break.
No,
it.
no, it wasn't. It was you had to put the.
What do you call it? Tamper-proof seal.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
see once it's been opened and resealed.
You see it's been open.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
How do they get around this at Manischewitz, Morgan David, and Carmel?
They make cooked wine. It's all pasteurized. Once it's pasteurized, we don't worry about it, because they wouldn't use so I'll answer that too. They wouldn't use cooked wine for their idolatry.
If it says on the bottle kosher for Passover,
It has to say cooked. It will say yayin mavushal, or pasteurized wine. That's how you know.
and
That's good.
that
Then
can be used for Passover.
yeah, it can be used for everything.
And if it doesn't say that on the bottle,
If it doesn't, well, two things. One, you're picking up Passover. If it doesn't say kosher for Passover, it cannot be used for Passover. If it doesn't, because of different things. But if it doesn't say yayin mavushal, you can use it. If it doesn't say that it wasn't cooked, well, it wouldn't say it. If there's nothing saying yayin mavushal, so then you have to assume that it was not cooked, and then you have to be very careful. Then you have to you're the only one who can serve it, basically. So you can't let your non-Jewish neighbor or your non-Shabbos, your person who doesn't keep Shabbos, use that because the rabbis made that decree. But it's otherwise, if I want to, there are certain wines, I think Yardain, that Yardain, I think it was called, that was uncooked from California. So people used to want that. That was when uncooked. That's when Jews would become connoisseurs in wine. For many years, we were Manischewitz Jews. Manischewitz, Magen David, which is cough medicine.
I like Carmel.
There you go. Carmel was that's already a higher level. But most Jews are doing in the old days were doing in every shul you would find Magen David or the other one. What was it? I just said Manischewitz. So and that was it. But they were cough medicine, and they turned. It was very thick wine. That was more people have. Then what happened was we started to become more, connoisseurs of the business. So that's when they decided, okay, let's get the other one. So that's when California got into the act, and they started to make some non-mavushal wines. And they made it light wines, the white wines. We didn't have those originally. They're all good for Passover. The odds are everything's good for Passover because they have supervision. So it's really, so I don't know what would make it non-kosher, but it has to say it. Has to say it.
There's a variety of.
It usually says kosher for Passover and all year round. That's what it usually says.
Everything I've seen has OUP on it. There's a variety of sangria that is not pasted. I don't know why. I never looked into that,
but the point is that as we became more and more richer in the field and decided they want to drink a little more, so that's when they started to make all these different wines. It was interesting, but again, as a person who doesn't enjoy wine or any of those things anyway, it doesn't really matter if it's going to be cooked, non-cooked. I don't see it. It's like when people tell me there's a difference in beer.
Is there a difference
talking to the wrong guy.
between how grape juice is treated and how wine is treated? Because we say a blessing
grape-
over the grape, not the alcohol.
Correct, but
Yeah.
the grape juice is not fermented. That's the difference. You're not fermenting the grape juice.
So does
Do we say
mavushal
a
come in
blessing?
with that?
Do we say
What?
Does mavushal come in at all with
Yeah,
grape juice?
it has to be in bushel.
It's-
Has to be in bushel. Yeah,
So grape juice is never pasteurized, is it?
it is pasteurized.
It is.
Huh. Okay, but that's why again you have to do it properly. But yeah, that's why we use grape juice. So people use
So you
grape
would
juice.
say
A bird progafen. You make a kiddush over that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now it says, but that was in peacetime. What happens? Bishat milchama, but in the time of war, il ve'il mutarot. So either way, even if the barrel is still open in the Jew's home, even if it was open, there would be no problem that they're both permitted. Why? Because there was no time to pour libations during the war. Here they're fighting a war. They don't have time to start dedicating for their gods. They're moving. Okay, so he says the sages prohibited the wine of the Jew that was left in charge of the idolater, all out of concern for the possibility that the idolater used it to pour a libation for his idol. In the case at hand during peacetime, when the troop is not at war but is simply plundering, the open barrels of wine of the wine house are prohibited because of their exposure to the marauding soldiers. The sealed barrel, however, are permitted because they were obviously not useful libations. Since the soldiers are not afraid to be caught plundering, if they had opened the barrels, they would not have bothered resealing them. In the wartime, even the open barrels are permitted because the soldiers are too preoccupied with the concerns of war to perform libations. Okay, so fair. That's how it works. Okay, so now, what does it have to do with the case we originally started with? Namely, he saw Rabbi Abahu going to the river and covering himself and so on and so forth. What's going on? You brought up a case, so what's it have to do with this case? Okay, so he says Alma. So we see Kaven to be ite lo menasche. So we see that because during the war, since they were frightened and distracted, they didn't pour their customary libations. Achinami. So here also, in the case of Rabbi Abahu, where someone is bathing in a river, Kaven to be it lo ate lehore. Since he is frightened and distracted, because people may see him, so he will not come to think improper thoughts, and therefore touching the male member will not cause him to be aroused. So you said he didn't. Your proof was, of course, Rabbi Abahu didn't touch himself when he went to the river, because it says whoever does that is the same as bringing the flood to the world, because he may cause himself to become aroused, which may cause a similar mission. He said, no, it's impossible, because when you're frightened, you're not going to come to that. And says, so Rav Zera therefore entertained the possibility of Rabbi Abahu touched the male member while covering his lower face. And so Rav Zera was apparently in doubt whether this case is analogous to the troop of marauding soldiers. He therefore said that although he saw Rabbi Abahu place his hand over his lower face, again, the lower regions, he did not know whether Rabbi Abahu actually touched the member, and he was unable to resolve that doubt. So the Gemara asks, "V'hachai mai v'yatuta." Wait a second. You just said he's bathing. So what fear is there? What kind of fear does he have? He's bathing. What do I care? Okay. He says, "B'yuta de nahara," the fear of drowning in the river.
That they were what?
Fear of drowning in the river. The river it could be a swift moving river. So here I have to protect myself. So I'm not thinking of anything else. I'm thinking of being able to stand up, or when I'm dunking, whatever the case is going to be, the current can take me. So I have to be. That's what his fear was. And so that's why he would not have been wrong of him to touch his male member, and he wouldn't have thought about illicit thoughts. You're thinking about saving your life. Now, you can also ask, by the way, why is he in a river that has a fast current? Okay, that's or a current that you have to be afraid of dying. I mean, you want to take a bath or something.
The only place he can go.
Okay, you could argue that maybe, but I don't know. I would think that you would have another thing to say, I'll go downriver so that I don't kill myself with this sort of thing. But, okay, that is... what you're dealing with here, by the way, is what we call a Masa Shahaya. It was a story. This happened. So you can ask all you want on what happened and why he didn't save him. You don't have it?
I have it. Well, I don't know what I have. Will you please read to yourself? Read that first paragraph and tell me what it has to do with anything you're talking about. How do they know what to leave out of this book? There's nothing in there.
All they do here is they just translate the words.
They just what?
Translate the words.
Yours or this one?
This one just is translating these words. That's why you're missing.
Well, what do you...
I have the commentaries. I have the commentaries. All these commentaries.
The commentary is more interesting than the story.
Yes.
There's nothing in the story.
Correct.
That's
correct.
the whole point.
Yes.
That's why we have the class. That's why we have the class.
Yes, that's why we call it the oral tradition. This keeps you. If I would say Rabbi Abahu to you, you would know the story, but you would know everything about the story.
What do you get from this paragraph?
I told you that. That's why I'm telling you. I agree with you. That just from this, you're not going to get it. You're just seeing the words. That is a problem with
That's
that.
how we tell stories.
What?
That's how we tell stories, with words.
No, but I'm just saying that they're only going to give you they're only going to translate. So what you have to do is you have to do the commentaries for what's going on.
I like my version better than yours, if you want to know the truth. I just don't know how they know what to leave out. How do they know what to leave out?
They're not leaving it, they're translating the words, I'm telling you. They're not leaving anything else for the words.
How do they know what to put in?
Oral tradition.
I'm not sure who's the they.
Whoever you're quoting.
Where do the commentaries come from? I think that's what Steve
If
asked.
this is nothing but translation, what are you reading?
What I'm saying is, you have the Talmudic text,
It looks
right?
like graphic novels without the graphics.
You have the Talmudic text, correct? That's what you
I
have.
don't know what I have.
I'm telling you, you have the Talmudic text.
I have a dumbed down version of something.
No.
No, it's not dumbed down. What I'm trying to tell you is you have a Talmudic text. So what they did, what the author did in that book was he took the Talmudic text and he translated the Talmudic text. That's all he did. So he may put in some words to help you out, but for the most part, he's just translating the text. So now what happens is the text opens up. Let me have your text. Okay? So here, if I would just read your text, which I will for the audience, for the great YouTube audience here.
9,000 million people.
Okay? 9 million people. So it says, Reb Zever tried to. Oh, wait, you're in the. Oh, you don't have that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why you're in the. Well, that's interesting. You don't have that.
This version doesn't have it either.
I said at the beginning. I said
Oh.
at the beginning of chapter 3, and you said yes.
Okay, okay.
This is
So so you don't. We didn't get there yet.
Steve,
That's shot.
This one
Okay.
doesn't have it either.
Oh, so I apologize. So that answer I don't know.
Which answer? I forgot the question.
Okay, what I have here, we're going to do this. We're about to do this. The answer is your question really is, how did Rabbi Glick decide which part of this did he include? I have no idea. I was also very surprised by that. That apparently they don't have all of the text. I have more of a text than they have.
And you said you don't have it? That book is
This
4 times.
edition also
No, this is
does not have this passage.
this would be
that
5
Rabbi was
volumes. There's 5 volumes
But that's 5
It's the
times
same
as
thing.
thick as this.
because this is 1 volume of the 5.
Yeah.
He has the same thing.
What's Agado and what's not, what to include?
I don't know why there's certain things that he included that did not include. So that would be the answer. I'm sorry. I didn't realize what you had. So I apologize.
I don't realize what I don't have.
Okay, so I apologize. I thought I was trying to figure out what we're talking. So we're having an argument about different things. The answer is that he didn't include everything. I don't know why. I have no idea.
Maybe he was working part-time on this.
It could be. That's possible. But I don't know why they did that. The same thing.
That's
Many
the
times
thing-
with his
that's-
book, he's
that's
not there for a
edited.
week.
That's not the full text. That's
Right.
edited, just like this one is edited.
It's the same book. It's the same thing.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
He says it.
it's the same thing. Same
Okay.
book. So it's only that's 1 volume. That's 5 volumes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I apologize. That I misunderstood the question because I should have looked at it when I first started. That would have saved the whole explanation here.
I just wondered
Yeah.
what you... Anyway.
But that's what's going on. What we have is a Talmud, and it tells a story. So there's two, again, not to get too lost in this, but okay, we'll have to stop here. But the answer is like this. In the Talmud, there's basically 2 types of Talmudic passages. One is halacha, and one, when I want to know what Jewish law is, we're going to have that discussion. And sometimes we'll have stories that will also get us to a halachic point, but really we're looking at a story. Something happened. So let's explore that story and figure out what happened, why certain things, and what do they base the action on, and so on and so forth. Like here, a simple story was, Rabbi Abahu went to take a bath in the river, and lo and behold, he covered himself up. Did he touch himself? What would be the problem with touching yourself? And how do we get to? And then we get into the soldiers coming in when they can do something, when they won't do something. Fear versus peacetime. I mean, war versus peacetime, and we get that whole discussion going. And then there's so much more that goes into that. And I just want to read one more thing with this, since we're on this anyway. But it says, what would be the problem? Oh, do we get there yet? I just want to make sure. We didn't get there yet. Okay, we'll have to. Well, so next week, we'll get to it. We're going to have to. The question is going to be, why did he cover himself up at all? Oh. That's going to be the other question. Why did he cover himself? Here's a lead-in for next week, guys. Okay. The question is going to be, wait, my bris milah, my circumcision is something to be proud of. Why am I covering it up? Why is Rabbi Abahu covering it up? Okay, he's going to the bath. So what? So go be proud. You do what you did.
Yeah, you have to assume there's really only maybe a couple other men around who are also going into bathe, and there's nobody else around.
I'm guessing there's no other.
Well, somebody observed and wrote about it.
Right, but no. So he's saying it's men, not versus mixed swimming. Yeah. I'm guessing it's men also. Yeah. But the question is, why be ashamed of it? Mm-hmm. Right? You have a bris milah. When we go into a shower, even a gang shower, we're not covering ourselves up like that, right? You went to when we all went to school. You took a gang shower. That was the end of it. You didn't think about twice. So he's doing it. Rashi wants to say out of modesty. Okay, so it's an interesting thing. But then now the Gemara is going to explain. Again, we'll get to this next week, God willing. What happens? But like I said, that's two types of stories basically that goes into the Gemara. What the Ein Yakov is dealing with is the second story, the storylines, not the halacha per se, because he doesn't want to. That wasn't what he wanted. He wanted to look at the stories, because what happens is many times we skip over the stories. We say, "Oh, it's an interesting story, Vito. You can't go. Let's go further because you really can't ask on a story." So there's nothing to learn here. Let's move on. And he would say, "Are you kidding? There's so much to learn from the stories. Let's go slow." And that was what the Ein Yakov was all about. Let's look at these stories. They're the same part of the Talmud here. We have to look at everything. We have to explore it, and we have to understand why the rabbis told us these stories. So again, why he skipped certain things, I don't know. But okay.
Yeah.
But that's really what the Ein Yakov is all about.